I showed up at my sister-in-law's engagement party, but she threw me out, believing I would divert attention from her because of my recent miscarriage. "I'll not let a worthless woman like you spoil my day," she said. Little did she know her fiancé was listening to our shocking conversation. And oh boy, he told her to put a stop to her sob story because he was done with her. Now the in-laws are blaming me for their breakup. For context, 3 days ago, I attended my sister-in-law's engagement party, which I had been invited to along with my husband, and that has created so much drama that I don't even know where to begin. My sister-in-law, let's call her Kate, and I don't really get along that well, but until now, we've been civil to each other at the very least. My husband and I have been together for 4 years, married for 2, and while initially Kate and I did make an effort to get along, we just didn't click. Later on, I found out from my husband that she had been gossiping about me among their cousins and stuff, calling me an attention seeker. After that, there was obviously no chance of us becoming friends. If it were up to me, I would have skipped her engagement party because I'm genuinely not interested in anything that she does. But that would have looked weird to our other relatives. So out of respect and civility, I attended because, like I said, my husband and I had been invited. But when I got to the venue and Kate saw us, I realized that she instantly got a weird look on her face. I tried not to let it affect me. I went to her and congratulated her along with my husband, but then all of a sudden, she told me that she wanted to speak to me in private. That was unexpected, but I agreed and followed her outside the venue to the parking lot, where she told me that she really just wanted me to leave, and she didn't want to insult me by saying that in front of my husband and the people who were standing around us. So she decided that it would be better for me to hear it in private. At first, I thought that she was joking or something, but from her face, I could tell that she was quite serious. I couldn't understand what this was about, and I ended up asking her why she would even invite me to her party if she didn't want me there at all. She told me that she had invited me because it was a formality that she had to follow. She couldn't just invite her brother and not me, since that would not sit right with her fiancé either. Apparently, she had wanted to contact me earlier and tell me not to attend, but it slipped her mind, so now I just had to go back home. I found it incredibly humiliating that after being invited, I was being asked to go home, and I knew that all the other guests would realize that I was missing. Nobody was stupid. People would be able to figure out that I had been kicked out. So I told Kate that I was fine with leaving, but she would have to cook up some story about me feeling unwell, which is why I had left. I was more than fine with leaving the party. I just didn't want people to think that I had been kicked out. So I asked her to do that one thing, but she wasn't even willing to do that. In fact, she reacted as if I had asked her to name me prom queen at her engagement party or something. She was horrified at the suggestion itself and told me that she was not going to let me make this day all about me because she was the bride-to-be in the next couple of months. And until her wedding, it was going to be all about her, so I just had to be fine with it. I found that entire statement so bizarre. I had no idea what she was talking about, and I lost my temper. She was already testing my patience, and after she told me that she was not going to let me make this day all about me, I just snapped at her and told her that I had no interest in doing that in the first place. I also told her that if anything, she was the attention seeker, not me. And on top of that, she was so insecure that she couldn't even stand the idea of me being present at her party just because she was scared that I would outshine her or whatever. It was then that I found out the real reason why she did not want me there at the party. It was not because she was afraid that I would outshine her. If I'm being honest, it would have been better if that was the real reason, but it was something far more disgusting and pathetic. After I snapped at her, she fought back with me and told me that she was not afraid of me outshining her because I wouldn't be able to do that in a million years. She was just afraid that people might start sympathizing with me too much because of my recent miscarriage. She didn't want me at the party because she believed that people were going to be talking about it if they saw me, sympathizing with me, and I was definitely going to be milking it for attention. She was not about to let a worthless woman like me spoil the day for her by stealing her thunder. When she said that, I was so disgusted that I didn't even think it was worth a reply. My miscarriage was a sore spot for me because it happened pretty recently, and I hated the fact that she was using it against me. I didn't even have anything to say to her, so I started walking back to my car with tears in my eyes. Once I was in there, I took out my phone, texted my husband that I was going home because I had a migraine, and I decided that I would tell him the truth later because I knew that if I told him the truth right then, he would publicly confront my sister, and that would lead to a lot of drama. So even then, I was trying to minimize the damage. Unfortunately, I didn't know that while we were arguing, Kate's fiancé had been listening to our conversation, and he had overheard pretty much everything. Whatever happened later, I found out about it from my husband when he came back home later that day. I'd already driven back home after my argument with Kate, and about an hour later he came back and told me everything. Apparently, after I left, her fiancé decided to confront her by coming out from wherever he was standing. Neither of us had seen him since he had been standing behind the wall of the exit of the venue, and from what I know, he was not happy about her behavior. He told her that whatever she had said about me, especially by bringing up the miscarriage, it hadn't been fair, and that she needed to apologize to me. Obviously, that was not acceptable to somebody like Kate. She didn't think that she had said or done anything wrong, so she started accusing her fiancé of not understanding her feelings and even said that I was an attention seeker and I would have done everything in my power to make that day about me if I had remained at the party. But of course, she's the only person who thinks that way. Nobody else who knows me or has even interacted with me will ever feel that way because I'm just not an attention seeker and never even have been. I am a generally introverted person, and I don't mean to sound arrogant, but I think the only reason Kate thinks that I'm an attention seeker is because she's jealous of me for some reason. She's the insecure one, and she's obviously just projecting. Her fiancé decided to tell her the truth, which is when she totally lost it and started screaming at her fiancé so loudly that people inside the venue heard them and started coming to the exit to figure out what was going on. But even that did not stop them. Kate and her fiancé kept arguing because he insisted that she should call me up and apologize to me and bring me back to the party. She accused him of caring more about me than her, saying that she couldn't believe that even now I was ruining her day. At one point, she started crying about how she had always been overshadowed by everyone and all she had wanted was one day where all eyes would be on her, and I had taken that away from her as well. Then finally, I guess her fiancé had had enough, and he told her to cut it out because he was done with her sob story. He told her that she had created all these problems for herself, and now she was pretending to be the victim in it. He was done because for many years he had tried to overlook these things about her, but it was obvious that she was never going to change. And marriage wouldn't mean that she was going to grow up overnight. She was still going to be petty, jealous, and insecure, and he wasn't having it. So right there in front of everyone, he asked her to return his ring and called off the marriage. Of course, at that point, she realized that she had taken things too far, and he was not going to tolerate her tantrums anymore. So she started begging him not to do this. But he had already made up his mind, and even when she refused to return the ring, it didn't matter to him. He just walked away. After that, everyone started rushing to comfort her or talk to her fiancé. But my husband was the only one who just came back home. From the fight that Kate had had with her fiancé, he had figured out why he had gone back home, and he was fuming. Since I had taken the car, he took a cab and returned, and I didn't even have to say anything to him. He just started comforting me immediately and told me that Kate had received instant karma for behaving the way she did and that I didn't have to worry about seeing her ever again because he was going to go no contact with her. And if his parents tried to defend her, he would cut them out as well without a second thought. After he was done comforting me, we swapped stories. I told him the details of whatever Kate had said to me in the argument that we had, and then he told me everything about the fight between Kate and her fiancé and him walking out. In the end, both of us were pretty satisfied that things had worked out the way that they did, even though it was not exactly good for his parents or Kate, because of course the family reputation had been put at stake. But he reassured me that I wouldn't have to worry about that either, since this was not my fault, and his parents were not going to be blaming me. And he was right. His parents didn't blame me, and they were actually quite reasonable about the whole thing. But Kate's in-laws are actually the ones that I'm having a lot of trouble with, because for some reason, they are blaming me for this entire thing now. Even though I don't even understand why they feel comfortable enough to even address me like that, because we've met only a handful of times and we haven't interacted much. They literally know nothing about me apart from whatever Kate has told them, and we know how reliable a source that is. Anyway, ever since the incident on the day of the engagement party, they have been hounding me nonstop and have told me that I need to speak to Kate's fiancé and reassure him that there is no bad blood between Kate and me, and whatever had happened on that day had just been a one-off incident. Firstly, I really don't think that it's going to help because he seems to have made up his mind. Secondly, judging by whatever I had heard from my husband about the things that he had said to Kate, I don't think that it'll make a difference, even if I do say it's a one-off incident because, as I had mentioned above, he had called her petty and insecure, and that obviously meant that they had been having problems. Addressing the thing with me just made it all worse, and it all just came out in public. The incident with me might have been a catalyst, but even then, I don't think it makes any sense to blame me. So I've been ignoring them and blocking them left, right, and center, but they've still been finding new ways to contact me, get on my nerves, and remind me that I am the reason that a relationship of 3 years has been ruined. Last evening, I just couldn't take it anymore, so I decided that I was going to contact their son and tell him what was going on. I don't have his contact info, but luckily my husband did, so we called him and explained the entire situation to him, and he was really sweet about it. He apologized on his parents' behalf and told us that he was going to take care of the situation and that we were not going to have to worry about any of this. So I thought that was going to be it. But now this morning I received several panicked phone calls and messages from my in-laws telling me that Kate's ex-fiancé's father had ended up in the hospital because of a heart attack that he had last night. And guess what? They are blaming me for that as well. Apparently, after my phone call, their son called them up and told them that he did not want anything to do with them anymore, and even said that he was going to be resigning from his job and was not going to be taking over the company when they retired as he had promised. They had tried to reason with him, but he had just hung up and blocked them. When they realized that he was serious about it, they were about to drive to his house and speak to him in person. But unfortunately, his father had a heart attack before they could do any of that, and he had to be rushed to the hospital. Now Kate and her mother-in-law are posting absolutely nasty stuff about me, telling me that I am the one who caused this, and my in-laws think that I should apologize to them because, clearly, things have taken a turn for the worse now. But I'm still not ready to apologize. I don't think that I've done anything wrong and my husband is by my side. Of course, I do feel bad for them because I didn't intend for anybody to have a heart attack. I never even thought I could have led to anything like that, so I really don't think that it's my fault. So am I the asshole for not wanting to apologize to my sister-in-law and her in-laws, even after her father-in-law's heart attack? Update 1. Hello, it's been a week since I posted here, and I would just like to take a moment to thank everybody who responded to my original post and commented with advice and been so supportive. Given the situation right now, I think it really made a huge difference to me because I had almost been on the verge of apologizing. But then I decided against it because the truth is, none of this has been my fault. About 3 days after I made that post here, I was still feeling very guilty about everything that was going on, and Kate and her mother-in-law were still posting about me and bashing me relentlessly. So that wasn't making me feel any better, and I was having a really hard time. Besides, ever since I had that miscarriage, I've been more emotional about everything, and all my feelings got muddled up, so I've been considering apologizing to everyone. I guess my husband could sense that I was in a very difficult position, regardless of the strong front that I was trying to put on for everyone, so he decided to contact Kate, his fiancé, and invite him over so we could have a discussion with him about what was going on with him and his family since they were causing us a lot of trouble, and he couldn't see me suffer like that. I'm really grateful to that guy because even though we haven't exactly been close since he used to be with Kate, and she hated my guts, he still showed up for us in person, though he didn't need to. And he didn't just show up, he also made it a point to reassure me that I had done nothing wrong and that anything and everything that was going wrong with his family, they had brought this on themselves. His father had always had heart problems, and he was obviously very upset that he had a heart attack. But he thought it was extremely insensitive and really disgusting of his mother and Kate to be blaming me for any of this. He also told us that I didn't need to feel bad for what Kate was going through either because he hadn't just broken up with her on a whim that day. He explained the situation to us, and that's when a lot of things became clear. Apparently, in the past 3 years of their being together, the initial few years had been very easy, and Kate had been wonderful, but then slowly she started changing. Apparently, it's not just me that she has a problem with. She seems to have a problem with every woman and looks at everyone as a threat, which is why she doesn't even have female friends. I find that very sad for her. She's extremely petty and insecure. He told me that she started getting very toxic, controlling, and possessive after being with him for a year. And he was pretty much forbidden from speaking to any females outside of family, and he had to cut off all his friends. She would check his phone and stuff if she ever suspected him of anything, which was pretty often, but wouldn't allow him the same liberty. They had broken up and patched up several times over the years, but he always managed to find his way back to her because he really loved her and believed that eventually she would change. But that never happened. She just kept getting worse and he kept waiting for her to change. I found out from him that whatever I had believed about her being jealous of me, which is why she thought of me as an attention seeker, had all been true. I had a better job and made more money. And even though I didn't think so, she always thought that I was showing off because of my clothes and makeup. It wasn't just me, it was a lot of other female relatives, but I got the worst of it because I wasn't technically family since I was not related to her by blood. She also hated her female coworkers, called them all sorts of names behind their backs. And even though she pretended to be friends with a couple of girls, she would make fun of them as well. It was just really sad. Worst of all, he said that she had given him an ultimatum a couple of weeks ago, telling him that they had been together for 3 years and she wanted to get married. It had been right around the time that I had announced my pregnancy. I had been 12 weeks pregnant at the time when I made the announcement on social media, and just a few days after that, she told him that she wanted to get married, and he had guessed that it had something to do with the timing of my pregnancy announcement, probably because she couldn't stand not being the center of attention. He didn't address it with her, though, but honestly, I don't think he had to. Knowing her, that's probably exactly what she wanted, to announce her engagement after my pregnancy and start competing with me for no reason. Anyway, he thought about it for a couple of days and then proposed to her because he did not want to lose her. On the same day, I had my miscarriage and had to be rushed to the hospital. The most disgusting thing that he told me was that even after Kate had been told that I had had a miscarriage by her mother, she wanted to go ahead and announce the engagement to everyone in the family. He was the one who was against it and refused to budge on the issue, but she delayed it for a couple of days. He had already been having his doubts about getting married to her, and when she had wanted to announce her engagement, even as I was in the hospital because of my miscarriage, he started feeling actually repulsed by her. But by then, he had already told his parents, and they had told some people in their family, so he was scared of backing out of the engagement because it was a pretty big deal. A couple of days after my miscarriage, they had made the announcement to their parents on social media, and he started feeling the pressure to get married now that he had committed to it. So he didn't say anything about it for a couple of days. But after the incident on the day of the engagement party, he just couldn't take it anymore. He started to see Kate for what she truly was, and that was the final straw for him. He went back home later that day and told Kate that she needed to find someplace else to crash, which she thankfully did without any arguments. Unfortunately, the place that she found was his parents' house. She's very close to his parents because, in front of them, she's a totally different person. She pretends to be an ideal wife and daughter-in-law, and they're pretty much in love with her, so they refuse to hear anything bad about her, and they have believed all the lies that Kate has been telling them about me. So he's in a dilemma right now, and even though he had wanted to visit his father in the hospital, he hadn't been able to because he knew that Kate would have been there, and he just didn't want to face her back then because fighting with her in the hospital is the last thing that he wanted. He ended up breaking down in front of us while talking because he doesn't want to lose his father. But it's pretty clear that his own parents prefer Kate to him right now. And so for a week, he hasn't been able to gather the courage to even go visit his dad because he knows that there will be some sort of confrontation. He also told us that he was ashamed of himself for allowing this relationship to get to the stage in the first place because, obviously, Kate had been toxic right from the beginning, and he had just been too weak to know what was good for him and leave her. So now, this was all happening because of his own idiocy. We reassured him that it was Kate who was the problem, and while he should have left a lot earlier, what mattered was that eventually, he had realized what was good for him and left. He was in love with her, and there's nothing he could have done about it because we don't get to choose stuff like that. He had tried his best, but it hadn't worked out, and we were not about to hold that against him. We also promised him that if he wanted to go home to see his father, we would go with him because we could see that he needed a support system. and we felt awful for him. So now, whenever he decides to go visit his father, we're going to go with him. Update 2. So it's been 2 days since we last spoke to Kate's fiance, and today he called us in the morning and told us that he had taken a day off, and in the evening he wanted to go and meet his dad. Regardless of everything that was going on, it was still his father, and he would not be comfortable with knowing that despite having the opportunity, he did not go visit his dad after the heart attack. Worse, it would give Kate and his mother an opportunity to start attacking me and him even more, somehow making it seem like it was my fault that he hadn't visited them, claiming that he had been brainwashed or something. It seemed like a pretty reasonable idea because I'm sure they are capable of doing things like that. So the sooner we visited his dad, the less likely that was to happen, and my husband and I agreed. In the evening, after we came back home from work, we headed over to his parents' place. Of course, just as we had expected, when we showed up together, Kate and her mother-in-law stopped us from entering. They didn't even pay any attention to me and my husband. They just addressed her ex-fiancé and told him that since he hadn't bothered to visit the hospital when he had been told about the heart attack, there was no need for him to see his dad right now while he was recovering and give him more to worry about. They flat out accused him of causing the heart attack and said such nasty things to him that he ended up crying. I couldn't see that, so I told Kate and his mom that the least they could do was let him see his father after all the drama that Kate had caused, which had led to all of this happening. I guess that was a mistake because as soon as I interrupted their conversation, they started targeting me, calling me all sorts of names and insulting me in the worst way possible by implying that I was a promiscuous and immoral woman for getting so overly involved in my ex-brother-in-law's life in spite of having a husband of my own and acting as if I had any right to be interfering in their family business. I was about to pick a fight with them for that comment that they made, but the two guys stopped me from saying anything because they knew that this would inevitably end in a shouting match, and that would not be good for somebody with a heart condition recovering from a heart attack. There was nothing that we could do after that, so I just flipped them off and walked back to our car so we could go back home. All of us felt a bit dejected, but honestly, we had done whatever we could. The guy had tried to visit, but if his own mother preferred his ex-fiancé over him, then there was not much that we could do to fix the situation. Hopefully, she would show her true colors eventually, and they would realize what a huge mistake they have made, and maybe he would be able to reconcile with his parents. But until then, he's just going to have to deal with it. Update 3, hi. So it's been a couple of weeks since my last update, and after that, I just kind of got busy with work, and my husband and I forgot about the whole thing. Even Kate and her mother-in-law seemed to get bored, so they stopped posting about me after a while. Not that I would have cared, even if they didn't. We have still kept in touch with her ex-fiancé, though. He is a really nice guy, and it's a pity that he had to go through so much crap. Anyway, he informed us that a couple of days ago, his mother finally reached out to him and told him that his dad wanted to see him. So he went over, and even though Kate was there, his father spoke to him in private and told him that he was really sorry about everything that had gone wrong, but he would still love to have his son inherit and take over the company after he retired, and he wanted to take back his resignation. So that's what he did. Even though there are still a couple of problems in their relationship, his dad told him that before he was born, his mom had been pregnant with a daughter, but unfortunately, she had been born prematurely, and they had lost her just a few days after she was born. He had no idea about that, but I guess now we can understand why his mother is so attached to Kate, and she's really not ready to let her go because she is the closest thing that his mom has had to a daughter of her own. Even though his father understands why he's not comfortable with the idea of her being a part of the family even after they have broken up. Thankfully, his mom doesn't really come to work. It's just a formality, and in his father's absence, he's mostly just going to have to handle all the work of their business on his own. So he's going to get the peace and quiet he needs at work. He's going to keep in touch with his dad, but smoothing out his relationship with his mom is going to take a long time, given that Kate is still part of this scenario. But he's hopeful for the future, and I wish him all the best. My family, on the other hand, has absolutely nothing to do with Kate. My husband obviously stopped speaking to her after the incident at the engagement party, and soon after my in-laws also cut her off after the fight that they had because she had been accusing them of being partial towards me. But honestly, none of us have been very affected by her in our lives, so I guess things have worked out for the better.